There's a version of you that doesn't want you to see this video. And this version of you is quietly just waiting patiently, is waiting for you to slip up, is wanting for you to go back to the familiar. And you've been doing this your entire life. And the thing is that this entity has been winning the entire time. And building this new identity, every time you try to build, you're going to reach a cap. You're going to reach a ceiling. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your life. You're going to reach this identity ceiling. And what's going to happen is you're going to feel a force of resistance. You're going to feel this gravitational pull that's going to pull you back into that same familiar territory that you were in before. And these are all of your old patterns, your old reactions, your old standards that you would have. And this is, some people call this self-sabotage. They say, oh, maybe it's bad luck. And some people say maybe it's the universe testing you. But it's none of those things. This is an entity that we have inside of us, we can say, from a spiritual aspect, I'm going to speak. But I mean, it's also in the logical, psychological aspect of how our brains work. But I'm going to call this entity the old man, because this is that old version of you that keeps coming back. And when I say this is not like a metaphor. This is a real entity that is inside of you. It's a real thing that you created. Okay? And all it wants to do is it wants to keep you in that same place that you've always been every single time. And you're probably asking, how the hell did this even happen? How? How did this even occur? Why do I keep self-sabotaging and keep going back to my old vices? Well, every time you have the same thought, that creates a certain type of frequency. And every time you have the same emotions from those thoughts, that creates a distinct vibration that you're vibrating from. And then it forces you to take these actions, these habits, and that becomes your default reaction that starts to build up. And so that occurs every single time. You're staying in that same world, in that same bubble, basically. And it all stems from you having fear, doubt, guilt, coming from a place of lack, from a place of scarcity. And I know what you're saying. You're like, oh, I've been successful. I've made it. I've made some progress. But you're always going to cap when you're trying to pull into that new identity. So that means that you're still operating from a place of lack, no matter how far you've gotten. No matter how good of a shape you are, you're still going to cap. No matter how much money you have and making from your business, you're still going to reach a cap. No matter how great you've built your relationships, there are going to be troubles every single time, because of identity. So the way you created this is from years of repetition. It's years of repetition, and now that has signaled to your brain that this is your survival instinct. This is how you survive. This is how you maintain it, okay? You built this, but then you forgot that you built it. You forgot about that you built this entire thing, this entire entity that's within you, that old version of you. And I want you to think of it almost like a video game, right? In a video game, you have a character. And then your character does certain things. And it accumulates a sort of history. And so that history is your old save file. Okay? And what happens is that you have this previous version of you. And you're trying to load up the game. You're trying to load up a new game on an old save file. Like, you're going to keep going back to your old save file. You're not loading up that new game. You keep trying to, but it's not working. And so what happens is you keep going to that lower stats, right, of your old frequency, your old version of you that has the limited amount of equipment and resources, and they're still using the same outdated strategies. And this exists in an entire system. And so when you try to load up a new game using the old save file, the character defaults back. It doesn't really matter. And this is the old man. The old man is that old save file that you have. It's still running. It's still trying to load up. Okay? You're still trying to load it up, but you can't seem to load it up. You keep having these things that are keep pulling you back. This gravitational pull, right? And it's funny because in health, the same thing happens. From the clients that I've coached in making a fitness transformation, there's always some sort of stress that leads them to do the thing that they don't want to do every single time. Like they reach for the food, right? Every single time. And it's not weakness. It's not because they're weak. It's because they haven't been programmed to where it's easy for them not to do it. They've been programmed actually in reverse, where it's easy for them to do it. So they've been programmed. And then wealth, if you have a business or a career and you see a new opportunity for you to rise up the ladder or reach a new certain income, you hesitate on that. Even though you know you could have it, you hesitate on those opportunities. Why? And it's not because you don't want it bad enough. It's probably because you want it too bad, to be honest. But it's because the old identity can't survive. So it's going to pull you back. It's like, nah, you're not comfortable with that. You don't even, right? Even though you want it so bad, you can't seem to get it. You can't seem to do it. Even when the opportunity arises, you're like, nah. Right? So in relationships, it's the same thing, You keep, having the same emotions in the relationships between your friends, your family, your loved one. And then you keep having those same conversations over and over again. And you know the ones that I'm talking about, guys. You know the ones that I'm talking about. It's that same conversation that, you go to your family gathering and maybe, that aunt or that, or your mother, she's going to say the same thing that she's always been saying. It's the same conversation that gets you mad, that triggers you, and that gets you a little bit emotional, right? Because it's close to home. So your subconscious mind has already committed to that. And you kind of know before you even get to that family gathering, oh, she's going to say the thing. She's going to say it like, oh, I already know, bro. I already know what's going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? You're in that state because your subconscious mind has already committed to it. So the old man doesn't, and notice, that's not a logical thing. It's more of an emotional thing because the old man that old version of you operates through emotion, not logic. Doesn't care how much logic you use to justify that that's not right. It operates off that old emotion. So it has these are four main strategies that I'm going to tell you that it uses in order to keep you where it wants to keep you, stuck. The first thing that it does is it creates this neediness where you're constantly like generating problems and you're looking for problems that keep dragging your attention. It keeps giving your attention to something else. So the attention for your old frequency, it's food for them. It's food for it. Because what you focus on, you feed on. So every time you scroll and you scroll through what's going wrong in the world, all the bad things that are happening, this creates this problem type of mindset instead of a solution type of mindset. Because you're not really looking for solutions. You want to see all the bad stuff that's going on in the world. And that feeds that old man, that old version of you. And the second thing that it does is it becomes very sadistic. So it thrives on your pain. So every time that you feel anger, that you feel stressed, that you feel ashamed, and you're vibrating at that lower frequency, right? You're frustrated, like, right? The more powerful that old frequency becomes. Because if you really think about it, your best, truest self is not stressing out about that type of stuff. He's not. He's really not. And so those old patterns feel the most convincing. Okay? It'll convince you, right? It feels normal. Now the third thing that it kind of does is that version of you is terrified. It's terrified because it knows that if you were to grow and you were to like dip and step into that new identity, it's basically like death to that version. It's death. Because if you raise your frequency And if you embody that new identity, then and you hold that conviction, that knowing, right, that you will get there so steadily, it starts to starve that version. It starves it. And you know what happens when you starve somebody? They start to panic. They start to panic. So it's going to always try to provoke a reaction out of you. Why? Because it wants to lower that state. It wants to lower that frequency back to kind of how it was, how you were before. And the fourth thing that it does is it's a reactive, it keeps you in that reaction mode. Because the primary mechanism is to hijack you, right? Something goes wrong here. God damn. Man, like, and you start reacting like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to freaking do this immediately. Like, it's giving you that perfect response, right? To react in a way that your old self would react, right? Out of the identity for you to go back into that old version of you, right? Like, you need to go to hit the gym, and then, you act in your old identity. Like, do I really need to go to the gym? Do I really need to go? What's even the point of working out anyway? Why do I even want to be healthy? You start to like convince yourself like it's not needed. I'm good for today. Maybe I'll go tomorrow. I'll start on Monday. All that type of nonsense that they'll try to convince you of. But I want you to understand that reaction is not you, because you truly don't want that. You don't. And here's the thing that changes everything, right? You can't fight this version of you. You can't fight it. You can only starve it. That's it. That's it. If you resist it, it's going to be, you're going to try to be pushing back against the fear, right? You're going to try to argue with it through fucking like logic or self-sabotage. And you're going to give it exactly what it wants. And all it wants is your attention. It wants your emotional energy. It wants your focus. It wants you to focus on it, right? It wants you to keep thinking about that. That's all it wants to do. Every time you're fighting it, you're feeding it. So understand, every time you're fighting something, you're feeding it. And the game mechanic that I want you to really think about is like in video games, right? There's those enemies that you attack, and when you attack them, they grow stronger and stronger and stronger the more that you attack them. And that's why the strategy is never to force it. The strategy is always to redirect that energy, okay? Because it is always going to trigger a reaction out of you. And so the move is not to suppress it or to fight it, right? It's to become aware that it's going on, and then become aware of it, and then redirect your attention toward that desired version of you, the future self. You need to see it and be like, okay, I understand. I know what it's trying to do, right? When you wake up in the morning and you don't want to go hit the gym, you hear those thoughts. You know that's your old self talking. That is not your future self talking. So once you recognize, a single moment of recognition is enough to break the entire loop. It's this automatic unconscious loop that you're running. And that creates a gap. And that gap that you create is good enough for you to make a different choice there. At least you're giving yourself some time and responding instead of reacting. That's one of the most important things, okay? So I need you to think like, I want you to think of ask yourself this question right now. Would the version of me that's already living in my desired reality, that already has everything that I have, that I deserve, what would that version of me do right now in this situation? And when you keep asking yourself that question of what would this version of me do, then things start to become a lot more easier, because you know what you should be doing and you know exactly what you shouldn't be doing. So in that changes your frequency, and it pulls your attention from that old identity, right? And you deposit that energy into the new version of yourself, okay? And then you keep building that identity, and you keep upgrading your character in the video game. And so this is why awareness is the most powerful thing. And it's always the first step to every single transformation that you can acquire. Because This is the first thing I do for all my clients. First, if you really want to get into the best shape of your life, the first thing you got to do is build awareness. So what food are you eating? Track your food. What are you eating? Send me the log. Send me pictures. Become aware of what you're eating and how you're feeling. That is the first step every single time. And the reason why is because if you can't see something, you can't change it. If you're not aware that something even exists, how the hell are you supposed to change it? Tell me. When you see the old man or the old version of you, when you see it, right? You can see it when you feel it too. You feel that tightening of your stomach, right? You feel like tightening of your stomach, your heart a little bit, right? Your conviction, that knowing, that inner sense of knowing, that confidence gets deflated. And then you got the urge to go back to your old vices. And when you realize that, it loses its most powerful weapon, and it's the element of surprise. Because it wants to surprise you so you can just react. And so the final truth that I'm going to say about the old version of you is that it's not your enemy. It's not your enemy at all. It's this like shadow version of yourself that you built. And you did that because of the resources that you had at the time, the emotions that you had at the time, the beliefs that you inherited from all your friends, your family, and the people around you at the time. That is just it. And so that old version of you is just a survival mechanism. That's all it was. And that's all it is. And yes, it kept you safe at the time. Yeah, you made some progress in your business. Yeah, you made some progress in your fitness journey, and you know, you've developed a good relationship. And it protected you from taking risks. But now you need to step into that next level. And you need to honor it. Honor your future self by outgrowing your old self. Not with force, but by elevating your frequency and working with somebody around where you want to elevate. Okay? So you need to build that new identity. And you need to be so consistent, be so emotionally strong and so powerful that new old identity, there's nothing left to feed it, because you're giving all your energy to that new version of yourself. Every single point of your life, you're going to need to elevate. If not, you're going to keep suffering. And so the daily practice that I want you to do is each morning, I want you to begin your day with programming yourself before the world programs you. Okay? So do whatever. Do one habit. Just one habit that's going to... That one habit that your future self would do. Do it in the morning. Do it first thing in the morning. The most important thing. First thing in the morning. To align yourself to that new identity. And every night, you know, at the end of your day, go look, you know, track the habit or track whatever thing that you did and ask yourself, did I respond in the way that my future version of me, and that's already living in my desired reality, would have responded? And so whenever that old version of you triggers you, you need to breathe, literally recognize it, acknowledge it, and then ask yourself, is this coming from my past self or my future self? And then once you understand that, you're going to know the answer of who's been in control this entire time. So make the right choice.